Totem sisters, allies, and loved ones. Welcome to As Told by Childless Women, an oral history series that aims to usher our stories into the permanent archives of global history where they have always belonged. I'm your host, Jobi Tyson, and the founder of Totem Global, a medium platform for childless women. And when I envisioned this series, I knew I wanted to take an active role in documenting the narratives of involuntary childless women and the childless experience. As a researcher, I know all too well that archives have the power to preserve community memory and influence individual identity. Our first installment's theme is focused on women who are childless by circumstance, which seeks to address an often hidden subgroup of childlessness, one still mostly absent from our cultural narrative. Women who are childless by circumstance wanted children and perhaps could have children, but never were able to for various reasons. I'm extremely honored to welcome today Erin. Erin hails from Madrid, Spain, by way of England. And I'm so thrilled to introduce you to Erin. Thank you so much, Erin, for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. When you reached out to me, I was very intrigued on the story that you shared with me on the reason that you weren't able to have children, that you're childless by circumstance, your circumstantial journey. And I'd first like you to just tell us a little about yourself and explain what circumstances led to your childlessness.
Yeah, so I've been single for over 10 years now. And the main reason for that, I believe, is because I have a psychosomatic illness. So a psychosomatic illness is when you experience physical symptoms, but there is no physical cause. So the causes are mental or stress related. And so whenever I have dated people within the last 10 years, I've found it very, very stressful, and I've experienced panic, insomnia, and spontaneous vomiting. So this has made it super difficult, in my opinion, for me to date people and for it to progress anywhere. So in recent years, I've never got past a month of dating someone new.
Okay.
So I know that dating can be super hard for people anyway. So I don't want to just say that if it wasn't for this, that I would be having a great old time, because who knows, right? Who knows who I would have met or where it would have gone. But because of this this issue that I have, it has made it impossible for things to progress in the ways that I'm seeing my friends and my peers progressing. And so at the moment, as I say, I've been single for a long time. And so yeah, I'm just coming to the realization that this potentially has led to me being 37 and single and childless as well as a part of that.
Okay, so is this that you have psychosomatic illness since childhood, or is this something that progressed since you've been an adult?
No, it's progressed since I've been an adult. So I've been through a therapeutic journey very intensely in the last 3 years to try and kind of make some progress or manage my symptoms. And through that, I've understood that there were times in the past that I found relationships really stressful. But throughout my teens and 20s, I did have, this normal kind of relationships for a year and a half, 2 years. And so really it was when my last relationship ended exactly 10 years ago. Since then, I just have not been able to progress. And I didn't have those symptoms in my previous relationships. I didn't find it easy, and I did have some other symptoms, but to a much less degree. So it's really been the last 10 years where I haven't been able to get over those symptoms, really.
So do your symptoms typically happen throughout the relationship? Do your partners see this happening, or does it happen without them around?
Well, yeah, good question. So it's because it's so spontaneous, for want of a better word. I really don't have a control over it. So I have spoken with people that I'm dating and told them about it, and they have witnessed it sometimes. And people are always very, very nice. But yeah, so some people have witnessed it, some haven't. I'm normally pretty honest, because there's just no way of hiding it, really. My actual symptoms in terms of when I'm dating, I know some people find the actual date stressful.
Yeah.
I don't find the date stressful.
Okay.
I was an actor, I'm a tour guide, so I'm used to just interacting with people. My symptoms actually normally start when the other person goes or they're not there, but sometimes it happens when they're there. So yeah, sometimes they've seen it, sometimes they haven't, but I'm normally honest. I call it anxiety. I say that I get quite nervous. People find that quite difficult to believe because, as I say, when I'm actually on a date, I appear completely normal, can hold a conversation, but the symptoms actually are normally when I'm on my own. Yeah.
So is it typically when it gets to the next level of commitment and intimacy, or since you said when you're dating, you're fine?
It's a funny one. So it's normally if someone expresses an interest in me, so it expresses that they like me. So I guess psychologically, there's lots of things. It could be fear of commitment, fear of intimacy, fear of rejection, all of those things. But yeah, it's funny. I know some people get nervous about dating because they're not sure if the other person likes them, but mine seems to be the opposite. When someone tells me they like me is when I actually start to get the symptoms.
Do you mind walking me through just an example of a relationship of how it happened in that went from that first day to the month?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's different with each person. It's not necessarily the same. I'm trying to think my last dating experience.
Was there one that was most traumatic?
There was, yes. There was one where I kind of realized, oh, I think I have a problem. And that was in 2014 when I lived in Hong Kong, in Asia, and I met somebody, an American who I found very attractive and very impressive, and sort of very charismatic and interesting. And I think I just was completely sort of overwhelmed by probably hormones and emotions and all sorts. And also maybe, I don't know, low self-esteem, probably putting someone on a pedestal without knowing them, or, all of that stuff. And just the excitement as well. I think sometimes excitement can tip into nervousness or anxiety, right? It's the same kind of feeling. And so at that time, I didn't really, I then started vomiting. I then started the kind of panic attacks and vomiting, but I really didn't know what it was. At that time, I feel like now the word anxiety is much more known to us and we use it a lot more. Whereas even just in 2014, I didn't really hear that word that much. I didn't, PTSD, which gets kind of said now, was, in my opinion, was for very, very strong situations, soldiers and people who've been through extreme trauma. Whereas now there's a lot more information. But at that time, I really just didn't know what was going on. And I was having these real panic attacks and then I was vomiting, and if I got a text from him or if I saw the first letter of his name in something else, I would just spontaneously vomit. And obviously that became very difficult. And it's not just the vomit, it's the not eating, the not sleeping, I kind of call it a hijacking of the brain as well as the body, where you just kind of go into a weird sort of zombified state. You can't really function, so it's quite difficult. And so that was the real height of it, I would say, or at least the first time I really thought, oh, this is a problem, But then it took me a very long time to realize that I had the problem, and that it wasn't just, for a long time I thought it was the external factors. Oh, maybe it's not the right person, or maybe you're not in the right place. And your friends, bless them, they always try to say that to you. Oh, it's not you, it's them, and you'll be all right, you'll find something. And I believed that. And I think to a certain degree, I still have that hope that, oh, maybe it's not me, maybe I just haven't met the right one. But yeah, I think when I got to Madrid, which was 3 years ago, was when I thought, okay, I have to do something about this, because I've tried all different configurations of men and places and situations, and it's still me. So that's when I had to kind of try to do something about it.
So when did you first hear the term psychosomatic illness? How old were you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was 3 years ago, and it was said to me by someone Spanish.
Okay.
And because it's kind of a formal word to use, right? And sometimes when you don't speak the same language, I find that the translation can be quite formal. And so, but he said it to me, and then I remember sort of Googling it. And then, yeah, that made sense. But even it's only been recently that I've been saying psychosomatic illness, because I don't know if I feel like there's a stigma to that, or I don't like the word illness because I think, I don't know, it sort of makes me feel like I can't do anything about it. Whereas I like to think that maybe at some point the kind of therapeutic work that I'm doing will mean that I can have some control over it. But when I looked up the definition, it is symptoms that aren't caused by physical factors. So I do have a psychosomatic illness at the moment. That's what I'm experiencing. Yeah.
So when you were doing research, did you find that there were types of psychosomatic illnesses, or mostly the same?
I don't know. Sometimes it's called psychosomatic symptoms. So that's a good question. I don't know if the symptoms are the same. I mean, they do a list of them. And sometimes it's things like, you know, they say that people who have, you know, irritable bowels, sometimes that can be brought on by emotional factors. You know, there's that emotional link. And so I guess you could call it the same thing. Who knows? It's still a bit of a mystery to me.
I was going to ask that, because I was going to ask about the statistics, if you knew any of those, because when I was doing research on it, I saw that it was severely under-researched. So yeah, so if you just learning about it in 3 years, I don't know if you've seen any statistics or anything, but it's interesting to know that it may be genetic.
Yeah, I don't know. So in the past, I guess I would have been called a hysterical woman, and I would have been, I don't know, given a lobotomy or sent away to the asylum, probably. So I'm quite grateful that there has been some progress in it. But yeah, I don't know. And I know people who suffer from anxiety, and I have a friend who says she wakes up in the night and it's as if an elephant is sat on her chest, you know, and that's how she experiences anxiety. Sometimes I get kind of tingling extremities. Or some people sweat a lot if they're feeling anxious. So I know that it's almost like it's a normal body response, but the things that I'm registering it for is not normal, you know.
Has it affected you outside of relationships?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think this is the thing that my friends say. They don't understand it. I'm not necessarily a shy person. As I said, I am an actress. I'm a tour guide. I'm not a very loud person, but I don't have a problem getting up and speaking in front of people. I've traveled to 70 countries, many of them by myself. I traveled all around Africa by myself.
Wow.
You know, so it's a funny one. It's not, yeah, it's a funny one.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So there is a social stigma attached to psychosomatic illness, and certainly there's a stigma attached to childlessness. My question to you, and I know you mentioned the therapeutic journey, how have you coped with both simultaneously?
Well, actually, I had a very narrow definition of what being childless meant until very recently. And actually, I had sort of thought that it was synonymous with infertility or infertile. And I have never had a diagnosis of that. I've never had a check of that. And I have huge compassion for people who have that diagnosis. So for me, it's only been in the past month or two that I've started to think, I am childless. And a lot of my friends are, you know, having children, getting married in this past sort of last 7 years. But actually, it's only really dawning on me now that perhaps because of what I've gone through, and perhaps what I will, if I'm not able to manage these symptoms or change things, then perhaps I won't be able to have a family or a relationship, a stable, committed relationship. I still have hope that I will. I'm still working hard, or working on those things therapeutically, but I don't know what the future holds. So yeah, it's I'm still kind of processing that, I suppose.
Yeah. You just managing it. Have you found a way yet to manage the symptoms?
No. I always have this hope every time I try. Well, I have found a way to manage it. Don't date anyone.
Don't date.
Well, don't date.
Yeah.
Which it's sad, but it's what I do. I recently tried a bit of internet dating, just, you know, some first dates, second dates, and but really I just avoid the stimulus, which is a bit sad, but luckily I have a lot of friends and creative projects. But yeah, I don't know. I am obviously, as I say, I'm in my late 30s, so I'm thinking about it more and more. But it's funny that I think I just either I was in denial or I didn't quite put the pieces together until quite recently. So it is something that I'm still working out what can be done, what if nothing can be done, what does that mean for my life, you know? So I'm still processing that. I kind of wish that I had an answer, but it's still an ongoing process, I guess.
So are you, obviously there are different options to have children, but are you afraid because of your psychosomatic illness, even if a man isn't around, to have a child?
Yes. I have had some friends who've chosen to have children by themselves, which is a fantastic journey that they've been on. For me, at this point, financially, I just don't see that would be a decision that would be responsible, really. If I could change things on that regard, maybe I would be able to think seriously about it. I don't know if it would be the right decision for me, but I might feel differently in the future. And if I do have a different financial status, perhaps I would feel differently. I live in rented accommodation. As I said, I'm a tour guide, which is this year has not been great. And also being an actress, my jobs kind of have been unstable. So yeah, again, though, it's a thing that I'm starting to think about and probably should have thought about years ago. But even that I feel has maybe not a stigma, but there's not much representation of that. And so my friend who's started that journey recently, I think it's only one person I know actually, and a couple that friends of friends. But that has its own difficulties, obviously, and own considerations, I think.
So you mentioned that you only started using the term psychosomatic illness 3 years ago, but you've been challenged with this for at least 10 years. So what did you think it was then? Did you go to a doctor? Did anyone diagnose you, or?
Yeah, so I went to a doctor in Hong Kong. My friend took me to a doctor, and I'm sort of from a family where you don't go to the doctor that often, and I think, I don't know, the general American idea of medication is maybe a bit different to the general population in the UK, how we think about not everyone, but in my family, you only take medication as a very last option. So my friend in Hong Kong took me to this doctor, and it was actually kind of a sad experience because I remember sitting there and I felt quite defeated because I didn't really want to be there, but I just didn't know what other choices I had. I felt so confused. I felt like I was going mad, which I sort of was in a way. And my friend, I hadn't eaten, I hadn't slept, and my friend took me there. And this doctor he said, right, okay, we can give you anti-anxiety pills and antidepressants. But before that, I was explaining to him briefly what was happening, and saying, "Oh, I feel very anxious," and he said, yes, my brother had that, and he tried to jump out of a window."
What?
And I just remember looking at him thinking,
Why would you share that?
that's not really what I wanted to hear. Okay,
Yeah.
so he gave me these pills, and I took them for 4 days, which I know is not long enough. I know you have to take them for 6 weeks, but I believe that I felt worse. I didn't like them at all. I really didn't. For me, they didn't work. I felt I was so tired. I felt I was vomiting more. I've always been someone, I'm quite petite, so I don't know, maybe they were too strong for me. And I've tried antidepressants, I think 4 times, but I've never got past about 10 days because there's something for me that physically I don't really like them, and mentally I've always sort of thought, well, maybe I can work this out. But also there's always side effects. If someone could give you a pill that just took it away, then I would take a pill, absolutely. I don't really have a moral judgment against taking pills, but there's always side effects, and those side effects normally for me are just too much. The tiredness, the sort of feeling of not really being there. I mean, they're similar to the symptoms I experience, but I end up being like, well, at least if I'm not on them, I know what's me and what's not. That's how I feel about medication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are so much more than our childless state. So I wanted to ask you, what brings you happiness?
Wow, what a question. My friends, I'm really lucky. I have some, I have some amazing friends, and they're scattered all over the world, unfortunately, but fortunately, in better times, I get to go visit all these lovely places across the world. But we keep in touch. My friends give me real happiness. Traveling has given me real interest, curiosity. Yeah, the blue sky in Madrid is one of my favorite things. It might not mean that much to you. I know you're in the States, but to someone from the UK, to see a blue sky most days is like pure happiness. And just people on a day-to-day basis, actually, just small things, friends doing favors for you, people, sense of community that I have where I live in my neighborhood always makes me happy, actually. Yeah.
So you mentioned acting. Is any movies that we've heard of that you were in?
No, definitely not. I trained as a theatre actress, and then in London. This is back 16 years ago. So back then, theatre was the thing. So, but it was so difficult. So I ended up kind of moving more into teaching and directing, and then actually. The reason now I call myself an actress again is because in Madrid I've had a bit of success in commercials. Only a couple, but so that's been super fun to be doing. It's just fun, really, silly stuff like that.
Have you figured out your life's purpose beyond childlessness or beyond psychosomatic illness?
Yeah, I thought I had, because I loved to travel. And I thought, well, you know what, if I never settle down, or if I'm never able to settle down, I can always travel. But actually in recent years, I've done so much of it. I thought, okay, maybe this wouldn't sustain me for the rest of my life. As you get older, you get tired. I'm sitting on night buses or sleeping in hospitals and climbing around mountains and things isn't quite what it was for me. So at the moment I haven't. I have some. I feel obviously you can have purpose, of course, but I do feel like a pressure to define yourself, to define a purpose without children, because it's just so ingrained in the culture. The amount of times in a day you're reminded of family, of that unit of mother, father, kids as being a visual representation of family, advertising that, even just walking about the neighborhood, I'm really becoming aware of how much it's kind of rammed into you. Even things people say, they don't mean to be hurtful. And actually, I'm from quite a liberal background. I certainly don't have any pressure to have children, but it's just sort of, it's just kind of things people say, I think, without thinking. And so for me at the moment, I don't have a grand plan for my life. I tend to take things day by day. And it comes in waves. Like there are moments where I think, oh, I really would be quite sad if I don't manage to have a relationship or children. And then there are other times when I think, that's all right, I'll just go off and have holidays or do some creative, so it's like everyone, every choice you make kind of has ups and downs and pros and cons. So I guess it's focusing on each day and just doing things that give you that daily joy. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your story. Do you have any last words before we leave?
No, I just wanted to thank you, because I think what you're doing is wonderful, and it's really like you say, an underrepresented thing, and to have a platform and to have someone who is clearly a joyful person as well, leading it all is a really great thing. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Erin.
Childless woman, you're beautiful. Child-free woman, you are enough. This journey might not be easy, but we're in this together so we can get through this together by owning our voice. Thank you for your time and attention today. Please like, subscribe, share, and download this episode. From Totem Global, I'm your host, Jobi Tyson. See you next time on As Told by Childless Women. To support this series, please visit astoldbychildlesswomen.com.